Welcome to Between the Horns, presented by your Southern California Toyota dealers. I'm Camryn Irwin alongside D'Marco Farr, as well as JB Long, as we get set for Week 15. The Rams now sit at 6-7 after the overtime loss to the Baltimore Ravens just a week ago. But, you know, guys, every time I walk into this room before we really dig into this, I keep thinking that a fern's going to end up here because we got some on that wall. But, I mean, this Between the Horns, between the ferns, we're getting close, right?
We're getting closer. Yeah. I still don't know how to feel coming out of Baltimore. Do you? I'm happy you almost won, moral victories, but you still got the L. So you're in the hunt, but you're coming off a loss. It's just weird.
I'm still stuck on between two ferns. I like that Jimmy G better than the other Jimmy G.
Oh, yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Very true.
Good to have you, Camryn. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to be back with you guys. I always look forward to spending some time talking the Rams with you.
How are you and Sam and Kirsten and Sarah and Chadwick going to do 2 games in 5 days at SoFi?
You know, quick rehearsals and a quick exchange. It's never a bad day to be in SoFi Stadium, though, so you really can't complain when you got 2 in a week. So happy to be there. But for this show, we're going to be talking a few things. Not only are we going to take a look back at Baltimore, but we'll also go over some news and notes. We also will have a chance to go over the Commanders and what's to come for Week 15. And not to mention, we're going to have some fun. I hope you're gearing up. Start thinking about 1,000 pounds, because I'm going to ask you what might be the context to that.
She says 1,000 pounds and you both look at me. Why? Why? Move on. Let's go. Come on.
Well, start thinking. Get creative. All right. Well, some updates in terms of injuries to this point. A couple things. Tyler Higbee, limited. We may see him back out on the field. Tutu Atwell has to still clear concussion protocol. Rob Havenstein, also questionable. Ben Skoranek, Michael Hoyt were limited participants as of yesterday. But the good news is Quentin Lake was a full participant as of yesterday. And it's a big plus, potentially having him back out on the field, D'Marco.
I remember, wasn't Sean McVay so geeked about him before he got hurt and he was making his rise? And, you know, I think he could have played last week, but they gave him the extra week just to get healthy, because I think he is so important to this defense and what he can do, the versatility. When they go 3 safeties, you can match up with just about any personnel group, 11 through 12, with that guy on the field. So he is so important, and I think he's on the rise. So the fact that he's coming back is absolutely huge to this defense.
New long snapper, too. Don't want to overlook that one for a unit that's been struggling and, in fact, had a disappointing moment to finish last week's game. I think that's really going to help tell the story of how these Rams finish these final 4 games, is what they can get out of that third phase.
Well, and we'll also have to mention Hunter Long out for the season. We'll get into the tight end group later on when we discuss the Commanders, but that's going to be an area where the Rams are going to have to make some decisions. But the good news is there is no doubt a bright spot when we get into that conversation. But let's head now to the playoffs, because December football, we have earned the right to have meaningful football in December. And as gut-wrenching as that last loss was, there is still opportunity. And it's interesting. I looked at some of the projections. About 25 to 30% is what most of them say are the Rams' projections to make the playoffs. However, if you look at some of the storylines for the teams that are also 6-7, there are 5 in the NFC. I don't know if that's a fair assessment. Do you think so?
No. I go week by week. But, I mean, do the Rams control their own destiny? Or do they have to hope something happens?
They go 4-0 from here, they'll be like 99%.
99%. Yeah. See, that's where my focus is. But if you can, look, you always welcome help. If the opposition wants to lose, don't get in their way, go ahead. But
from your boy Tommy DeVito?
Absolutely, that guy, my man. I love this guy.
Great help in the middle.
My favorite quarterback right now. But yeah, the Rams have to take care of their own business. But if you can get help throughout the league, then so be it.
Jake Browning, you're next. My former Husky.
Woof. Absolutely. Good year for the Dogs, by the way.
I was thinking this week, I can't wait for January. I believe the Rams are going to be a playoff team. I think they can do some damage if they get in. But I like this time of year as much, if not more, because by the time you get to the playoffs, it's so cut and dry. It's survive and advance, and that's great. But you're locked in on your matchup, and that's all that matters. Right now, almost every game matters. Minnesota at Cincinnati Saturday, huge. Tampa Bay going to Green Bay, huge. Philadelphia going to Seattle, consequential, and on and on and on. There isn't a game this week that that doesn't matter, say for a couple of like AFC only contests.
You mentioned Minnesota, and they sit currently at 7-6. They actually might be our best shot considering they're starting their fourth different quarterback in the last 7 games. So are we looking at Nick Mullins? I mean, what can Minnesota do to clear out the rest of their season?
I see one quarterback. His name is Howell. That's it. Everyone. That's all I see right now is that guy. That's the most important thing. But
that's the player in you.
That's the guy. I mean, that's the job. That's what you have to do. That's all you can control. But yeah, I mean, having Nick Mullins as a guy that could help or hurt you, that could be scary considering what we know about him coming out of San Fran.
I'll say a couple of things on this point. One, it stinks not to get that Baltimore win. And I wish we could rewind time and play that overtime or even the fourth quarter again. But before the Rams took the field, we all knew and felt that was not the game they needed to win. 1, because Baltimore's really good and it's on the road. 2, because Baltimore was the last AFC opponent on the schedule. These next 4 games are way more important because if it comes down to a tiebreaker, NFC record could matter. And speaking of tiebreakers, I can't go into all the details right here, but the best case scenario is that the Rams beat the Packers and the Vikings to the finish line and finish clear of those. But a 3-way tie between Minnesota, Green Bay, and Los Angeles could be the key to unlocking the Rams postseason. That's for another day.
The playoff picture will come that much clearer as we continue through December. You mentioned Baltimore, and we have to go back. And I know each of you have watched the game time and time again in the last 3 or 4 days. There are so many takeaways. It was a gut-wrenching loss. Those are the words of Sean McVay. How is it that as tough as that loss was, we're still sitting here, and I look back at that going, man, that was sure fun to watch.
Man, I think it might be the first walk-off punt return I've ever been a part of. Really. I mean, in a game that really mattered. I remember one way back in 2011, Patrick Peterson scored, but there was 3 wins between both teams, and this was like mid-season, so it really didn't matter. It was just like, wow, I can't believe that happened. But that was the first walk-off in overtime punt return I'd ever seen, but it was a hard-fought battle. There was a lot of things to take away that you liked. Sean McVay liked it. They were so tough. They went nose to nose with Baltimore and they played physical. You took the entire air out of that stadium. That is hard to do in Baltimore, and you did it. You did everything you needed to do to win that football game, except the final few plays. So there's a lot to like. There's some things that are going to stick in your craw forever. There are some opportunities missed that you'll never forget as a player. That's just the way this game is. But I of course you want the W. But when you talk about focus and trap game, when you got the Commanders coming up and the weak part of your schedule, losing to Baltimore could have been a blessing in disguise because now you don't have to motivate through this week. You don't have to worry about the team playing down to Washington. All you have to do is think back to the opportunity you just missed in Baltimore. You will be jacked and ready to go for work.
You both sat down with Sean on Monday. What would you say is the pulse of this team? Because you said they don't need motivation.
It's opportunity lost, but I also think that anger, that frustration can be the fuel that gets the Rams to the finish line. Now, that loss is going to make it more difficult for them to get in the postseason. But if they can overcome it and get beyond Week 18, I think they'll be a more dangerous playoff team because of what happened in Baltimore. You can't tell me that a playoff team with a healthy Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, Sean McVay at the controls is going to flinch one bit having to go to Philadelphia or Dallas or Detroit for a road wildcard game based on what they just put on tape last week. Now, San Francisco is another story. We'll get to that in Week 18. That comes with a whole bunch of other complicating matters. But I took a lot of positives out of that game. That being said, they're out of moral victories. Only actual victories will get them to where they're trying to go from now. We've all talked about Baltimore, though. You haven't had a chance to weigh in. You were watching the Ravens game. What did you think? What were your takeaways?
I think one of my biggest takeaways was not just the explosive plays, but also the run game. What we saw in the first drive, Kyron Williams was phenomenal, but it also made me reminisce to a conversation the 3 of us had back at training camp on Between the Horns, where we got into a little bit. You wanted more run game in this season, and I wanted more explosive plays. And I feel like Christmas has maybe come early for the both of us because since Week 12, I mean, this Los Angeles Rams team is now top 3 in the NFL in points per game, total yards per game, as well as rush yards per game. I mean, I feel like we're getting the best of both worlds.
I think we both want the same thing. We want more points. We want this team to win. So whether it's explosive or running the football, either way it works. But I think we're going to have to adjust what we think because I like what you said there. Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. That's the stars. But I'd throw Puka Nacua in there right now. I'd throw Kyron Williams in there right now as one of your stars, one of the driving forces behind your success. So look, if whatever the easiest path to victory, that's what you should do. If you're running the football and they can't stop it, then why stop running it? If you can't run it and you have to throw it and you're having success, then why stop doing that? So whatever it takes to win, that's what you do. And I think this team is set up to do both. And I think that speaks to the butt and gut guys up front, the offensive line. They are more than credible in run blocking, and they're more than credible in pass blocking. So depending on complexion of game and who you're playing, they can morph into whatever type of system you need to win that ball game.
I know you've seen both. Have you seen both Top Guns?
Oh, yes. Come on now. Maverick.
Which one do you like better?
Wow, that's hard, man. The first one, because it means a lot. I almost joined the Navy after I saw that movie until they told me how small the cockpit was. Yeah.
You know, it got me thinking about that, and you said Maverick. That's the name, too. We celebrated my youngest 4-year-old birthday last night, and once we got him and his brother to bed and through the sugar rush, instead of watching a movie, I went and I watched Baltimore, Los Angeles again. Yeah. And I think I like this version of Matthew Stafford as much or more than the Super Bowl version of Matthew Stafford.
Wow. The guy that brought you the Lombardi, you like this one better. Okay.
I like them both.
Yeah.
Just like I like both Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah.
But he's got some Maverick in him. He always has and he always will. But with age and with better supporting cast potentially, and I could make the case that other than Andrew Whitworth, this offensive line is achieving at or above the level that the Super Bowl team did.
Agreed.
I can make the case that with Demarcus Robinson joining this 11 personnel group and Davis Allen emerging as the next pass-catching tight end, they've unlocked something, especially on short fields, that they didn't have as recently as a month ago. And especially in the running game that you talked about, that you both just hit on, let's not forget that the running game had essentially run out of gas in late December and January of that Super Bowl season. Right now, the way that they have married once again their run and pass game together, it is completely different from what Sean and Jared Goff and that group did with Todd Gurley several years ago, but it is just as effective in terms of how they align their pre-snap motion, the stress they're putting on defenses. And if this group can get into the dance, there's a reason why outside of this facility, the NFL cognoscenti are falling in love with the Rams again.
If Matthew Stafford is Maverick, then Sean McVay might be Iceman, and their relationship is critical. And I know there were some communication issues against Baltimore that were, we'll say, a big element in terms of the direction this game went.
I like the friction, though, when you have great quarterback and great play caller, great coach, and there's going to be friction. I see this, you do this, I want to do that. There should be some, and then you'll have that happy medium come game day, but you have to expect that. But Demarcus Robinson, I said this, and I can't remember who I said it about. When you see his dimensions, height, weight, speed, and then see what he can do in warmups, the guy is vertical. He can go up and get it. He has a big catch radius. Why aren't you a star at this point with all this ability? I mean, we've seen receivers come and go through this team only, and like none of them look like you. None of them can do the things that you can do. Why aren't you a star? Oh, wait a minute. He just needs the reps. He needs the opportunity. And then he got the opportunity. You've got problems as a defense. When they put him on the field, you get measurably taller. You really do. And you have to worry about that as a corner, as a safety, as a defensive play caller. How do I cover this guy up in the red zone? You probably can't. Go ahead.
Red zone. You say red zone.
Yeah.
Can I take you back to the first drive of that game?
Yeah.
9 straight running plays. What did you think their 10th was going to be?
Run.
Me too.
Slam it in there.
It wasn't. Where did they go from there?
Throw.
Incomplete.
Yep.
And that burned us, right, as we were talking through it on the air. Maybe if Sean McVay had a mulligan, he would do something differently, but maybe he wouldn't, because that's the other thing that I discovered watching that game is even though they stalled out there and had to settle for a field goal, they got a bunch of crucial data points in terms of how the Ravens were going to play them the rest of the day, especially as the field got short, and how'd they do on short fields the rest of the day.
They killed them.
Dimes everywhere.
Yep.
Cooper Kupp, Davis Allen, Demarcus Robinson, touchdown. So it's a 40-minute puzzle-solving exercise, and I think they had the chance on that drive to not just punch the Ravens in the mouth, but like knock out all their teeth. And if they could do it again, maybe they would go for that emotional victory, not just the tactical one. But it served a purpose, and I think it's reflective of just how well the quarterback and the head coach are working together right now.
Yeah, and don't forget, in Maverick, Iceman and Tom Cruise were
They were partners.
They were partners.
Yeah, they were partners.
They were partners. One element that
soundtrack was awesome too.
Big time. Yeah.
Okay. One element though we have to talk about is special teams. And my thoughts as I kind of break apart the special teams unit is that are the parts greater than the sum? And I think that could be the case here, JB. Is it not?
Why do you say that? Because Ethan Evans is bombing punts all over the field, and
Guy's got a heck of a leg.
I mean, Lucas Haversick just had his best day as the Ram. There's a real case to be made. I hope that we're telling the story in a couple of years that night in Baltimore, or afternoon, I guess it was in the dark and the rain, is what locked Lucas Haversick in as the Rams kicker for the future. If that comes out of that loss, I think that's a net positive.
Oh, no doubt. Wasn't that the one right before half where he stepped into a 40-plus yarder?
51-yarder.
51-yarder. I'm sure Harbaugh wanted to freeze him, but he had to keep the timeout. You had to, because you're going back on offense. But just having him walk off the sideline, line up and kick, I think was great for him. And then he nailed it. So went to a whole new level. But yeah, man, teams has got to get better. You have got to get guys on the ground. And I get it. I saw it in real time. It was a block in the back that should have been called. But even with that, you got to get the guy on the ground. On the punt return that ended the game, you have to get that guy on the ground, period, end of story, even with the block in the back. Inexcusable. That has got to be fixed. So it would be a shame if your defense is playing the way it's playing and they're playing with guts. Mike Hoyt is a guy that's playing, and you can tell he's compromised, but he refuses to come off the field. I think he's the fourth or fifth guy that's playing the most on defense, refuses to come off. So your defense is playing gutsy ball. Your offense is figuring it out. It would be a shame if your special teams let you down week in and week out. That has got to be a point of emphasis going into the Commanders game.
4 games left. How do you address it?
Well, how would I address it? Yeah. I'd start throwing Gatorade buckets. Or here, this is how we used to address it back in the day. We would have veterans volunteer for special team spots. Guys that play major snaps on offense and defense. Hey, look, I'll go be the punt returner.
Aaron played a few. He almost walked a guy into the punter.
He almost blocked it. But you would have guys volunteer to go out and play on these coverage units, because they don't want this to let them down. So that's how you address it. Hopefully that sends a message and it kind of sparks some more intensity on special teams, but you just cannot have those type of breakdowns in big games.
Some of this variance is what the Rams signed up for, though, in a developmental year. They went searching for their next Jake McQuaid, Greg Zuerlein, Johnny Hecker. They were hoping to come away with a rookie trio that they could move forward with. Now, it hasn't panned out that way. They're on their third kicker. They're going to have a replacement long snapper this week. Maybe they found their punter of the future. But also, I don't think each unit is equally responsible, right? Like if Haversick can pin down the place kicking, that's been really costly. Hopefully that's solved for to the extent that's possible. Kickoff, kick return is fine. You're not winning there, but you're not losing a ton of ground either. Punt return hasn't been great. And let's face it, there were 2 muffs in the rain that could have been more devastating than they proved to be. Punt cover is the one that we've known since preseason 1 in August is an issue. It hasn't really improved yet. It finally caught up to them. Can it improve in the final month? We'll see.
Well, it can't be schematic. It's got to be personnel. And that's the only thing, like you said, what's the remedy is you will have starting safeties and linebackers volunteering for those spots. I'll go cover. Let me go do it. You sit, I'll do it. Yeah.
One other thing too, though. Yeah. Yes, they deserve accountability. But before Evans punted that football and 10 other guys went down there to try and make that tackle, did the Rams not take a delay of game penalty and move back 5? Did they not drop a ball across the middle? You get 10, 12, 15 of those yards back, even if you still have to punt. The trajectory and the angle of your punt is completely different. You might get a fair catch, an angle kick out of bounds, pin them deep. That looks completely different if you're plus 5 to 10 to 15 yards downfield.
No doubt. With a defense that just stopped them and forced the punt.
That just stopped them.
No doubt.
It's wild to think back to the start of this season because you mentioned the special teams. We needed a lot of pieces on special teams. This is the largest draft class the Rams have had in 30 years. There were 14 drafted. And you think about it, we had 40 names that we were all trying to memorize back at training camp. Can you imagine how far we've now come now in the month of December? Did you think that this is where we would be? And what a pleasant surprise that now we're sitting at 6-7 with a potential to head off to the playoffs. You know,
look, we give Sean McVay a lot of credit for the culture of this organization, the culture and the direction of this franchise, and that is all warranted. But his coaching staff, they've done a terrific job with all these young guys, especially on defense. Raheem Morris, his staff, getting all these young guys, not just ready to play on defense, they're actual starters. starters, guys that are making a contribution to this defense and on offense. Look, I think the rookie of the year would be easy. It's Puka Nacua, right? If you look at numbers. But if you really look at what's going on, how can you not say it's not Steven Avila? If you don't have that guy playing left guard as a rookie, you don't have anything. You have nothing. You have to start over from the beginning. So having these young guys come in and be handed jobs and then go out and earn them and get better every single week has been awesome to watch.
And I think they might have just found another future starter in Davis Allen with a breakout performance against the Baltimore Ravens. So don't get me wrong, I'm excited about 2024 and beyond, but I also know how many things would have to go exactly right for the Rams next season to be in this seat they're in right now. And so while Matthew Stafford is playing some of his best football with Cooper Kupp on the mend, starting to make guys miss again, and on and on and on, don't let this chance slip away right now, even though the roster isn't perfect, even though this isn't an all-in roster like their Super Bowl one was.
I know we were going off on the throw that he made to Cooper Kupp in the end zone, Matthew Stafford, the balloon ball shot. Yeah. Did you see the route by Cooper Kupp? Oh, doctor. Now that's Cooper. We said what would happen if Cooper Kupp was Cooper Kupp and Puka's on the field at the same time. Now throw in some Demarcus Robinson. Good Lord, you got issues.
I 100% agree, but that's exactly the within game adjustment that I'm talking about. I don't think they call that play or run that route or get that touchdown, at least not through the air, if they hand it off 2 more times and punch it in with Camryn Williams on the previous drive. Now, maybe they'd be up to such a point that it doesn't matter, but that's what I mean in terms of the information gathering. That was a direct result of them stalling out on their first drive, and then the rest of the way they score with Cooper, they score with Davis Allen, they score with Demarcus Robinson.
I was going to reserve this conversation for our Commanders preview, but since you both have already touched on it, with Demarcus Robinson in the mix, and of course with what's happening with our tight ends, what should be the expectations of the tight ends group heading into week 15? Because it's going to have a different look. How much offense should really be coming out of there? What should be the expectation?
Okay, when I start to see circus catches in the middle of the field by tight ends, okay, look, that can't be a one game thing. That's got to be that's got to be an every week thing. When you can take advantage of that matchup, when you have safeties and linebackers covering athletes, big tight ends, and they can make catches like that. Look, I remember Kellen Winslow Sr. used to say the tight end is always open, and for the most part, he's right. And when you have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford who can get through his reads so quick and then come back to you, that every route is viable. When you're making catches like that towards the middle of the field, plus everything else that's going on, the running game is supplementing the passing game, and you have tight ends that are making plays because those are the guys that get open by deceit. They block, they bluff, they go. Even Davis's, his touchdown catch was a bluff block. He bluffed Clowney and then spun around and caught it and ran into the end zone. So those things are always going to be open, but the quarterback has to trust you to make those type of catches. When you make that stuff in the middle of the field, guess what? He's going to come back to you.
The moment wasn't too big for him.
No.
His blocking needs to be as good as his bluffing blocking, right? His pass catching is excellent. His pass protection has been adequate. His run blocking has room for growth. No surprise there. Tight end is one of the most difficult positions in the league to come in and make a difference as a rookie. It is intriguing that at the moment, with hopefully Tyler Higbee coming back, they might be the most dynamic 12 personnel group they've been in some time. You're also at the point where you're saying, well, which receiver are you going to take off the field?
What, you read my mind. Which one? I'm not taking Puka off.
They're not taking
Cooper Kupp is staying out there.
Spoiler alert, they're not taking any of them off.
I'm just saying. Right.
But it's a bit more of a headache for Washington to prepare for this week. And I'll say it one more time. They did it against the best linebacker combination outside of San Francisco, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
The best linebacker safety combination that the Rams will face maybe until week 18. And that's, I think, one of Sean McVay's strength is manipulating that spine of a defense. Baltimore was tremendous. They attacked it with a rookie tight end. I think that bodes really well.
Well, as much as we look back, we also have to look forward. And Sean McVay has said it multiple times this week. We can't let Baltimore beat us twice. Now, before we head into the Commanders preview, I think it's also important to note that's the mentality that both Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and the rest of this team have, which is we have to put respect on the Commanders, regardless that they have allowed more yards as well as more points than anyone in the NFL to this point. But let's take a listen to what Sean McVay had to say about this matchup.
You don't get into that. The film is what talks to me. I think sometimes stats can be really inflated, and very misleading based on, how some games unfold that is in alignment with back and forth or that, sometimes gets out of hand. So, you always let the tape talk to you the most, and then, those can be sometimes beneficial guidelines, but I don't see those types of things when I flip the tape onto this defense. And, the challenging thing, too, is you look at it, they're coming off their bye. got good personnel. And then Coach Rivera is calling it, and in terms of coordinating the defense. And there's been one game of inventory, and there's a core philosophy, and he's had a lot of success over the course of his career as a defensive coach. It's why he's why he got to be a head coach, and so there'll be some different things that they'll have that we have to be prepared for. And so I don't put too much merit into that kind of stuff.
He said, "Let the tape talk." The question is, what did the tape tell you?
From the Commanders?
Yeah.
Look, if you were a Commander homer, he could show you 10 or 12 plays that would flip games, that would change those 2 blowouts they've had in a row, that could have turned the tide versus Miami, turned the tide versus Dallas. But from an outsider looking in, you think this team is not very good, and they're playing for a draft spot. But look, they have some pretty good pieces. I know they're giving up the world on defense, but they can still get after you. They have a pretty good interior. They really do. And I like the kid Barton, the inside linebacker.
Seahawk?
He reminds me of kind of like a Bobby Wagner type. If you don't get a pad on him, he's going to make every single play in the run game. He's just that smart. He's just that dialed in. He gets off blocks. So they have some pretty good pieces. And on offense, Sam Howell is a problem. He really is. The guy can move around. He really can. And he throws the football really, really well. And Terry McLaurin, their receiver, is a problem. So if you're not playing up to par and you let them hang around, they're a football team that can give you some serious problems.
Are you sure the tape doesn't say that they're going to throw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns and get a pick 6 on defense, and Aaron Donald's going to have a hat trick?
No, not sure. Yeah.
That's what the film's telling me.
That's what it's telling. Go for it. Yeah, come on.
But that also makes me really uneasy.
Yeah.
Because I think the human element, like those gentlemen just pointed out, is the biggest thing the Rams are playing against. Until they get to San Francisco, I don't think the Rams are playing the Commanders or the Saints or the Giants. I think the Rams are playing the Rams. I think their best football is emerging. I think it's out there. And oh, by the way, here comes another opponent. If the Commanders have anything going for them, they're the 4th opponent the Rams will play this season coming off a bye. Pittsburgh got them. Dallas got them. Baltimore got them. Here's another. And I don't like that. And I don't think it's fair. And I wish the league would step in and do something about it. You know what I want the league to do?
What?
I want the NFL to make the Rams do it a 5th time this season.
Come off a bye.
I want
in the playoffs?
In the playoffs.
I'm right there with you.
I want the league to make the Rams play another team coming off of its bye when they go to face the 1 seed
He just
January.
turns it beautifully,
Big time.
doesn't he?
But it's weird, though. Human nature, right? I mean, remember, before we started last week, Sean McVay mentioned Baltimore in his post-game press conference versus Cleveland. And then twice on the coach's show before we even asked him about Baltimore. So you have the ultimate respect for the Ravens because of how good they are. I hope you show the Commanders that same respect and treat them as if they're Baltimore. Because if you walk into that football game, if you ease into a street fight, like I said, you'll be in the middle of the 4th, down 3, and wondering how this happened. This team is supposed to be bad.
Good bounce back opportunity for the pass rush and for the secondary, right? I think the group they were going up against in Baltimore was challenging. The conditions were challenging. Both offenses got theirs through the air. No one's going to mistake Sam Howell for Lamar Jackson, but he is prolific. Maybe not efficient, but he's put up some big numbers. And so I'm anxious to see if they can get to him with their pass rush and if the back end of the Rams defense, hopefully with Quentin Lake back to complete the puzzle, gets back to more what they were doing since their bye week.
Well, and to your point, Howell has been pretty decent, especially in the red zone. He's found a few rushing touchdowns of his own. How do you protect against him?
It's good to be mobile as a quarterback in the National Football League. That seems to be where everybody's trending now. If you can create things off schedule,
except for the Cleveland Browns.
Except for the Browns. But I mean, look, you just faced the top mobile quarterback possibly of all time in Lamar Jackson,
right.
And he had to be special to beat you. So, look. Rush with reckless abandon. You had to rush with power before to keep Lamar Jackson in the pocket. You're worried about him scrambling. This is different. Pin your ears back, light your hair on fire, and get loose. Look, if he gets out and scrambles, so be it. We'll live with that. But look, this is not Lamar Jackson. This is a guy you can get after. So I hope. How many sacks is Aaron sitting on right now?
58.
No, I mean like
Those
for
are
this
pressures.
season. For this season.
Half dozen.
For half, yeah. This could be like the lowest sack output of his career. That's got to change unless he has a big game, and it could start this weekend.
One of my favorite nuggets from the NFL research news and notes from this week was a theme, and it was called, Can the Commanders Protect Sam Howell from Aaron Donald? And it made me chuckle because I'm sitting there going, this is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL in 2023. But I think the better question you have to ask is, can anyone protect a quarterback from Aaron Donald? You saw what the Baltimore Ravens had to do against him. He was triple teamed. There was a lot of force going up against him, nearly 1,000 pounds. So guys, I got to ask the question, what do you think is the equivalent to 1,000 pounds? Because that's what he's continually having to face game in and game out.
What did you call it again? The white gloves with the bear hug? The holding call?
Oh, yeah.
Do it again? That was great.
My point was, I know they're not going to call every holding penalty on Aaron.
Yeah.
But when there are two white hands on his lats, one on each 9 of 99, that one can we call?
That would be a hold, yes.
I will say, though, the Rams rush 3, dropped it. Like, they played coverage. Unlike what you're saying here, where they're sending a lot of pressure at Sam Howell potentially.
Why not?
They were trying to make Lamar beat them with his arm.
Correct.
And so a lot of those double or triple teams are just sheer math. If you have 5 or 6 in protection and Aaron's only 1 of 3 coming, so it goes. My question is, can the Commanders stop Troy Reeder? Because remember what Troy Reeder did to the Commanders?
I do remember. Oh my God, the Reeder game. He went berserk, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
But that wasn't Cameron's question. What was Cameron's question?
How do you keep Aaron Donald off the quarterback? I don't think you can.
I don't think you can, but what's the equivalent of 1,000 pounds?
What do you mean? What?
You got any comparisons? Because I have a few for you.
Go ahead.
On a regular basis, if he's going up against 1,000 pounds in any sort of game, that's the equivalent of, let's just say, fighting off a moose or 7 kegs of beer, or to keep it in the holiday spirit, 3 reindeer. Just saying.
I like
it's a pretty funny visual.
My holiday calorie intake.
I like it.
And Ethan Evans squat.
Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I tell people that on the sidelines. I'm like, that guy's our strongest guy, the punter. And they don't believe me. I show them video. This is him. He's squatting 585. That's the punter. That's not Aaron Donald. That's the punter that's doing it. But look, I don't think there is a way to stop Aaron Donald. There isn't. There isn't a guy drafted or signed in free agency that could stop him. He is just that good. He is special. Same with Micah Parsons, same with a lot of other guys, but there is no stopping him. And he's so versatile. He's not going to line up in just one spot. That's the issue. And when he starts to move around, you talk about the offense probing for information. When they move him around, you're going to find out exactly what their protection plan is by who's pointing at him and who's coming to get him. So that's stuff that Raheem Morris can use to get blitzers home. So there is no stopping Aaron Donald. It really isn't.
All right, guys, it's that time. Keys to victory.
Oh, boy.
What has to happen to pick up the win, get back to 500 against the Commanders?
Want to go first?
Yeah, don't give up a punt return for touchdown. How about that? Is that a good one?
That's
a fair one, right? Yeah.
Yes,
how about that?
Very specific.
Let's start there. Look, I think this is a game that you can win without Matthew Stafford having to be special. And this is about the long haul. So I'm thinking Kyren Williams running the football and setting a new season high for carries. He's got, 25 is his career high.
You're playing to the audience, D'Marco.
Absolutely. Now, if he goes over 26, 27, 28, I think you should be able to control clock, beat the Commanders with that, and have Matthew Stafford play the co-star role and let Kyren Williams be the hero. What do you think?
I think you should probably give Royce Freeman some of those carries if you're in a fortunate enough position to be able to run it 25 to 30 times on Sunday. But I wish that for him and for the Rams. I'm going to go with communication being my key to this week, and I mean that in a couple of ways. It's an ethos of this facility, of this coaching staff. If I had $1 for every time I've heard clear, open, and honest communication come out of Sean McVay's mouth, we'd be spending the holidays in the Cayman Islands at my place. God. That was not the case in Baltimore. They broke down on offense and defense at critical junctures with their communication and coverage in the back end on defense, from sideline to headset at quarterback, at the line of scrimmage with their silent count. Like, that's why they had to burn a timeout. That's why they took the delay of game. I was stunned because these are situational masters by reputation. And for them to get to where they're trying to go, they have to reestablish that. I also mean, the way they're playing right now on offense, they stress the opposing defense. They really test the opposing defense's communication. I think that's why they're killing opponents right now on offense, is because how do you solve for a stack that has Davis, Allen, Cooper, Kupp, and Puka Nacua?
I don't think you have enough. Yeah. I don't think you have
an
enough
extra
on
man
defense.
on the field.
No doubt.
So good luck to the opponents the rest of the way. And for the Rams, get back to very clear communication. And I think with the home crowd and these next 2 games, they have a chance to do that.
There is one hilarious race I have to bring up. It's when the play clock gets low and Matthew Stafford still hasn't snapped it, and when Sean McVay starts to run towards the official to call timeout. Can he snap it before he gets here? It's so much fun to watch that happen. Yeah, it's good stuff.
And yet, if you didn't see it on Sunday, that would be a good thing.
That would be a great thing, right?
That is true.
Waste that 40-yard sprint. Go
Save
ahead.
it for the spring.
No doubt.
My key for this matchup is containing fire. Not an easy task, but I think it is fitting considering the conversations that have been going on around this team. And I think the fire that they have felt since the loss against Baltimore is a beautiful thing. It can fuel you better than just about anything. However, I think there still needs to be a contained, disciplined approach and very pointed. So, instance, you want to have the ball run? Well, I'm the opposite because I'm looking at the secondary of the Commanders and I'm thinking there is a lot of room to take advantage, throwing the ball downfield, potentially to 3 of those receivers like we've mentioned. So I'm thinking containing the fire, staying disciplined is going to be critical, especially when you got a team like the Commanders coming in who really have nothing to lose.
By discipline, you mean like check with the linesman to make sure you're
not towing the line?
Wow.
Okay.
How
You
hard
had to
is
drop that?
How hard is that, right?
I know, as a defensive guy, you had to relish that
Check
penalty.
the ball, right? You're right there. Look at it.
Did you ever get a warning for lining up in the neutral zone?
You get one warning. Look, next time I got to flag you, move back. And then if you don't heat it, you get banged a few times. But come on, dude, look down in there. The ball's right there. Come on. I'm sorry. Never mind.
I think that's still going to be up for debate for the rest of the season. Let's just put it that way. Thanks so much for joining us here on Between the Horns, presented to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Don't miss out on Sunday and SoFi because the Rams are taking on the Commanders.